and we're very excited that you were able to join us today. Go ahead and go over some of the logistic element first, and then get into the fun of performance tasks. First things first, welcome, of course. This is our wiki. Hopefully most of you are familiar with our wiki, and just take you to that page right now. This is our update page. We send out an update at least once a month, although we try to do more. And if you miss an update, they are on this page. As you can see on our wiki, you can join our listserv simply by providing the required information right here and email that to our Secretary Assistant, Bernadette Cole. All right. And this webinar will be archived as soon as we can get it screencasted, and it will be available on our wiki on this page you probably used to register and review the materials. So we'll be available for you at the end of, well, excuse me, I should say at the end of the session, but once we are done with the screencast. All right? So, our social studies team, our section chief, Faye Gore. Our program assistant is Bernie Cole. And you have with you today the three current consultants, we're hoping to get a fourth on soon, Ann Carlock, myself, Steve Maceda, and the wonderful Michelle McLaughlin. And our instructional technology partner is Gail Holmes. And on behalf of the social studies team, we are very excited to be here with you today. Other contact information such as phone numbers can be found on the contact page on our wiki. Now, following this presentation, these are the things we hope to achieve today. We're going to look at a number of different types of performance tasks: reenactments, exhibits, extended writing examples or research papers, and digital presentations, discuss the role and importance of quality rubrics, and talk about ways to implement these tasks in the classroom. And remember, as we talk about performance tasks are more than just doing a song and dance in front of the class. Performance tasks are intended to measure what the students know, understand, or be able to do. And that may not involve them actually doing a quote-unquote performance as we think about it. Performance is simply, what did they learn, what did they understand, what can they do? And we'll come back to that as we go again and again. Now, we sent out an email earlier this week and end of last week asking you to please make sure you visit our wiki page and view the videos. And you will need to have this page open as we go in case the videos do not work over the GoToMeeting webinar streaming. Performance task video 1 and performance task video 2. What we will be doing is we will be playing the videos on our end. Audio may not come through properly. If you're not able to access or run the videos, it's okay, as they're simply examples of performance tasks. As they are linked, you can certainly view them at another time, or you may have viewed them in advance. Okay. So now, we're going to turn it over to Michelle, and she's going to talk about why performance tasks.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Hope everyone's doing well. As we look at the question why performance tasks, you see on the screen we've got 4 bullets that really pretty much try to give us an idea of what are some of the benefits of performance tasks. And really, we really start with the fact that we're talking about really engaging the students in the process of learning that allows them to demonstrate whatever that learning is and the expectation, ultimate expected outcomes. So we allow the students to engage in the process of their learning and show the things that they require, the skills that they require, the understandings, the content knowledge along the way. And we allow them to delve into those 21st century skills. And when we say 21st century skills, they're so broad. We really want to begin to be specific when we talk in terms of what are those skills. And we know that we're really focusing a great deal in this immediate shift to the essential standards with the literacy of the disciplines. So we really look at what literacy looks like within social studies. That's one of those 21st century skills, as well as being able to understand and have an awareness of global awareness. And if we're looking at some of our content, we also look at being able to be civic-minded and participate and civically engage within the society. So those are things that we begin to look at, as well as those social studies skills that we have embedded into our new essential standards. Those also become a part of those 21st century skills, being able to evaluate, make predictions, understand and share multiple perspectives. And then when we look, we're really moving beyond the classroom assessments and the standardized tests to really ongoing assessments and what can be done outside the classroom. How can this be applied to my everyday life as a citizen, as a just person of the world and the community, and then looking for an excellent way of assessing those conceptual understandings that we have become to know as our generalizations or our enduring understandings. So our goals as educators are to engage our students not only in their learning but in the outcome and performance tasks. The question of why is this is a way to allow us to assess their ultimate outcomes of learning. Okay. Developing the performance tasks, we look here, and some of you may have come to some of our training in the past with concept-based unit development, and so this is something that is familiar to you, and hopefully some of you have participated in some training, it may be with your district leaders, and this will be familiar to you also if you haven't participated in the session with us. But when you look here and talk about, okay, now we know what a performance task really can do as far as benefiting us and the students, how do you begin to develop one? And so you begin to look at the most important things is you're looking at your content, whatever's been taught, you're looking at the skills you're expecting students to acquire and be able to demonstrate, and then ultimately, because we have this shift in our new teaching and our standards, what is their understanding? What do they really know, understand, and are able to do with whatever the learning outcomes that you put in place for them? So you begin to allow them to reflect on what's most important, and that is what we are calling the CUD, what students know, understand, and are able to do. And of course, as you see, your understanding is going to always be your generalization. You're going to look at the CUD. You want to make sure that when you're developing your performance task that the CUD, or that all three of these components are part of whatever your task is. And then you look at the student performances and you want to begin to see, do you have a true assessment of mastery? And if you do, what's the evidence that's going to be there to show you that there's mastery? So you're giving students an opportunity, you're giving them choice to be able to demonstrate whatever your ultimate understanding expectation is. And with that, one example that you may kind of take in, kind of process is if you ask the student, okay, let's do a performance task, and you ask the student to recite the Bill of Rights from memory. You want to make sure that they know all 10 of the all of the first 10 amendments, and they know that those 10 are the Bill of Rights. So you just ask them to recite them. But doing that, they are doing something, they're doing some type of performance, but that isn't a performance task. That's simply an activity. If you ask the students to recite the Bill of Rights from memory, and then you want them to take that knowledge that they've shown you and describe what each of those amendments means to them and why, and including an example or two when they tell you the First Amendment is this, and then here's an example, and the Second Amendment is this is an example, then be able to show how this maybe impacts them, impacts society or the community. That begins to show you what a true performance task is, because in that last example, the student is showing you the code. They're showing you that they have the factual knowledge of the content of what the Bill of Rights is. They're showing you that they have an understanding of it by being able to provide examples to you and tell you what the impact is on society or the community or even themselves. And along the way, they are processing with you some of the skills of being able to describe and explain, maybe even provide some cause and effects of how some of those amendments came to be. So that is a true performance task. So you're going beyond just reciting and telling what the first 10 amendments are. And so when you begin to look at why performance tasks and then how you develop them, keep in mind that everything is going back to the generalization and ultimately the cut. The three things students are going to be able to hopefully do. So now let's talk about how you're going to design a performance task. So the question becomes, okay, I know they need to show their knowledge of facts and topics of whatever we've been studying, particularly if it was the Bill of Rights. I know that there's some skills we've been using that I want to see incorporated across the way. Can they show me they understand cause and effect? Can they show me they understand how to interpret multiple perspectives? Can they show me they understand chronology and sequencing? And then how they're able to show impact. You begin to ask what actually is going to be required. And so this next slide just kind of gives you a sense of some of the things you ask yourself. Okay, is this, whatever I'm asking the student to do, is it aligned with the generalization? So once again, we go back to the CUD. Is this going to be something that allows the student to show you that they have an understanding, that they know ultimately what learning should have come out of their particular session with this learning? You've got some choices. You can have an authentic assessment, you can have a scenario, or something that may be simulated. Authentic assessment is really what you begin to see a lot of in some of the samples that we provide and some of the things that we do, because when we begin to talk authentic choices, we're talking about putting students in the role of a historian, the role of a geography. But what do sociologists do when they get together? What do anthropologists do? How would an economist look at this particular situation? And what would be questions that the economist would ask? So an authentic assessment is something that would really call them to put themselves in the role of whatever that discipline expert was, as well as you can have some of that come out in a scenario. Give the student a scenario. This is something that happened, and let them go with that based on the knowledge. And then, of course, we always love simulations. It allows them to show some procedural understanding. So when we start talking about our knowledge of Bloom's taxonomy and revised Bloom's taxonomy, simulation also gives us an opportunity to be able to show some of those procedural skills. Every performance task is aligned, of course, with the generalization, but providing students a voice and a role in how they determine and wish to demonstrate their knowledge and understanding to you really is significant. Giving students a choice a lot of times requires the teacher to kind of step back and give up some of the control. But if you give them some choices that they can look at and say, I'm more comfortable choosing this, students begin to have opportunity opportunity to demonstrate a lot more comfortably with a lot more success the learning that they have acquired. And a big key to this, as you see, is being able to provide very clear and strong rubrics for students as a guide up front, in the front end, not after they've done the performance task, but the rubric would be given to them before so that they know what should be included in their performance task and how they're going to be graded. When you begin to look at those things, then you really begin to see that you have a quality assessment. So you've got the why through performance tasks. You know when you develop it, you need to be focusing on the cud. And then when you look at these particular aspects, you begin to see some clear criteria to kind of make sure you've included. And then you come upon what some of you may have seen in some of our workshops, and that is this template. And it's just a template. You may design something that suits you a lot better, but these three things are the three things that you really want to make certain that you're addressing when you begin to develop your performance. And so you've got the what, which is your topic. You've got the why, and we're going to show you an example in a moment, which is your generalization, which is why they're actually doing this, so they can show you understanding. And then the how they're going to show you their understanding is where you get into the performance. And that's where most of the details are going to come. So when students look at this and they can see what you expect from them, remember that ultimately every performance task that the student does in the classroom, or it can be something done out of the classroom, should focus on showing that they get the why, which is that piece where you see generalizations. So in other words, students will be able to grasp the generalization and understanding and give it back to you in their way. So let's see what it would look like in an example. Give you a minute to kind of look at this, and you see that most of the meat is in the how. So the what goes back to your content. The what is, of course, this would be an authentic assessment, having students pretend that they are a part of a team of cultural anthropologists. And in doing that, the what is, they're going to analyze the interactions of early European settlers and American Indians. So if you notice, this is your no. This no is the interaction between the Europeans and the settlers and the American Indians. And then your why, it goes back to your understanding. You see, this is a generalization. It probably was pulled out of the unit, could have even been pulled from the unpacking document. And the generalization is that they will be able to show that they understand that the interaction between those two groups may lead to cultural diffusion. We're using it for the European settlers and American Indians. This same understanding or generalization could be used in a totally different class for a totally different performance task, because it's transferable. And then, of course, the how they're going to do that is where you begin to be creative in what you want them to do. And this is where you're going to make sure your rubric really lines up in development. And Steve and Ann are going to share with you some of those important points of doing that shortly. So as you research and look at one aspect of early Native American Indians and settlers' culture, those students are going to begin to research that. That's the skill part, 21st century skills you're seeing come out. And then they will draw from that research once they've done that, and they're able to write a case study, which entails some other literacy type skills. And then the authentic part, once again, will bring them back to, remember, you're in the role of an anthropologist, you're part of a team, and once you're finished, what you're going to actually deliver to me is, with all this research and with all what you've written in your case study, you're going to deliver a speech as if you were delivering it to a historical society. And then they can use other 21st century skills, and technology is also incorporated in this. And so this just gives you an idea of just a small and simple performance tasks. They can be as long or as short as you need them to be, and none of them have to be as intricate as this.
You too.
But keep in mind, the one thing that you want to remember is that everything should come back to the generalization.
Monday.
Everything comes back to the cud and ultimately the generalization. And so with the performance task, we're going to go through some examples this afternoon. And hopefully you'll see that even though we are only going to focus on historical reenactments, exhibits, student writing, which should always be a part of any performance, and digital presentations, these are just 4 of many that you can opt to do. And so at the same time, we ask that you remember the performance task does not mean that the student is actually doing a performance, but rather that the term performance for us in concept-based and unit development in social studies, performance means in the context of them being able to demonstrate learning, demonstrate mastery of learning, demonstrate mastery of understanding of a particular generalization. Everything goes back to the generalization. So as we kind of get into the rest of the presentation, keep in mind the generalization and these 4 examples we're going to go a little more in detail with, starting with Anne in the next section. If there are any questions, just type them into your chat, and Steve will be looking and trying to answer them as Anne goes along. But if you don't want to do that, there'll be a question and answer period at the end. And so right now, we're going to turn everything over to Anne to kind of get us started with these examples.
Hi, good afternoon. What we're going to look at now is some shared components amongst the examples in which we're going to be focused on this afternoon. While we definitely want to provide as much choice to students as possible, we also want to ensure consistency so that if you have varying projects going on at the same time and someone is more inclined to do a presentation while someone else is more artistic and wants to do an exhibit, you want to ensure that consistency for expectations. And that can be done by ensuring that some of the components are consistent. The first one that we're going to look at is the written component. What we want to do is ensure that with even whether it be reenactments or digital presentations, no matter what the actual product is, there always is that expected written component, whether if it's possibly a script or it might be note cards. Definitely we're encouraging annotated bibliographies, works cited pages, and also the more opportunities we have for that written component, the better we're preparing our students for the constructed responses that are forthcoming on the common exams. Next we have the oral. The oral component is also something, whether it be an exhibit, we want to make sure that the exhibit can be spoken to, that the student is able to present on the exhibit, that of course when they do a paper, they're able to give an overview to the class and be able to provide information, as that's one of the standards that are emphasized in the Common Core as well. Next we have a visual component. The visual component we want to ensure is easy, obviously, in the digital presentations and the exhibits. However, what are some opportunities? Please type them in at this time. What are some opportunities that you see could be included for visual examples in, say, a research paper or in a presentation? We want to still encourage all components, and also be able to cite that work. So please just type them in. Okay, well, some examples that we thought up was possibly doing storybooks or incorporating visuals that help illustrate the written word throughout the research paper and references. We could have a high school class actually create like a book for 4th, 5th grade reading class, and they have to actually teach the class is something within the social studies that includes pictorials for reference and so forth. Our next component pretty much comes after the product is created, and that's the self-reflection piece. And this also is aligned with the peer-to-peer reflection piece too. So both of these come after the product is completed. The self-reflection, we really want to take the time for students to take that moment, and even though time is such a valuable commodity to all of us, when we have that time to look at what we've done, did we meet and exceed the teacher expectations? What could I have done differently? So often we find how students can actually be harder on themselves than we even are grading them on. And when they take the time to identify goals for future projects, then they often will actually implement them. So we're going to provide you with rubrics for these as well, and guiding questions to assist in the self-reflection. Peer-to-peer reflection is something that is also recommended in this digital age in which our students learn best to communicate via text messages and social media. We often aren't provided with those opportunities to continue to learn the skills of speaking face-to-face with colleagues and peers. So a lot of times our discussions with one another and our peers help to generate other ideas. So we want to make sure that we provide that opportunity for students to be able to discuss and debate, and that can also be a part of the shared component in all of these performance tasks. I'm sorry if I was talking a little fast. I get a little excited about performance tasks. Okay,